Welcome, everyone. I'm Tom Giroux. All of us at Alfred Music miss seeing you this year in Chicago. Although we are socially distancing ourselves, that doesn't mean we have to be musically distant. I would like to thank MTNA for this platform to present our virtual showcase, fast, dramatic, and visually stunning, new releases from Alfred Music, featuring Dennis Alexander and Catherine Rowland. We have prepared a showcase sampler to help guide you through the music being presented. You can find the digital sampler by clicking the download handout link. Feel free to print the sampler to follow along. The last page of the digital sampler lists all Alfred Music product released in the past year. I also invite you to visit alfred.com/mtna2020 to learn more about the music being presented. Now let's join Dennis Alexander as he introduces his latest works.
Hello, my name is Dennis Alexander, and welcome to this first ever MTNA virtual conference. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, my home here. New Mexico is known as the land of enchantment, and I hope today that you might be enchanted by some of these brand new pieces that I'll be showing you today. I would like to remind you to please download that PDF that you have available from my wonderful music publisher, Alfred Music Publishing. And if you want, you can follow along with some of these pieces as I play them. You have just the first 2 pages of these various examples that I'll be showing during this workshop. I'd like to start today with some very exciting new books that just recently came out. Over the years, I have written many toccatas for students at all levels, but I've never done actual collections of toccatas. But now you have available 2 different collections of toccatas for your students. Book 1 is all early intermediate through intermediate, and book 2 is intermediate through late intermediate toccatas. I think students love playing these kinds of pieces. They're so wonderful for building agility and speed, for playing all over the keyboard, and of course, toccatas are such exciting pieces for our students to not only practice, but to perform. I can almost bet you that once your students play these toccatas on a program, the audience is going to be tempted to jump out of their seats and say bravo. So here we go. I want to show you a few pieces from book 1 first. And on your sampler, you'll see on page 4 some examples from this book. There are 6 toccatas in book 1, and all 6 of them are very different. They're all quite unique, but they're lots of fun to play, and I know your students will have fun practicing them. I want to also tell you that book 1 is dedicated to a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Martha Baker Jordan, and she was a professor of piano for many years at Cal State Fullerton, and she is now retired and lives there in Placentia, California. Toccata Capriccio, and this one is marked Presto Giocoso. Capriccio means essentially a piece in free form, but I think it also has kind of a double meaning of capricious, humorous. So this little piece is quite playful in nature, and it has lots of triads in root position all the way through, and sometimes those patterns, those little 5-finger patterns that you might have in the right hand are somewhat mimicked in the left hand by a descending broken chord. So you might have, well, we have those kinds of patterns in the right hand. I want to remind you to have your students follow the fingering that I suggested, because in the first measure you'll see that we have 5-3-1 here, but then on the F sharp major triad we have 4-2-1. It just makes it a little easier to get back and forth between those white and black keys. Here is Toccata Capriccio. Isn't that fun? In the middle sections of all of these staccatos, I have a contrasting pattern or a theme. In this one, you heard that very lyrical theme, which is a nice contrast to the bouncy staccato flavor of the opening. The next toccata I'd like to show you is in your sampler, the bottom of page 4, and this one is called Toccata Marcato. Marcato means accented or stressed. This toccata goes very, very quickly. I've marked it vivace spiritoso. And in this one, we want to feel a real strong pulse on beat 1 and a lighter accent on beat 2. So when we have this little pattern in measure 3, rather than accent, you get like that. I want to be lighter in the middle of the measure so it gives a sense of forward motion and a little more flow, like this. And in the opening, we have a chromatic pattern in the left hand, and I have a traditional standard fingering in that chromatic pattern in the left hand. But I want to mention as well that if your students are playing this with 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, they could also use this fingering of 1, 3, 1, and cross your fourth finger over on the G sharp and go 4, 3, 2, 1. And for some students, that might be easier than the fingering that's marked. But either fingering, of course, is a great fingering for that particular pattern. This piece has lots of triads, but they're not only in root position, but you'll find triads in first inversion and second inversion. So you want to make sure that your students have covered those triads and all those inversions before they attempt to play Toccata Marcato. Here it is. The next one is toccata alla breve. And of course, we all know what alla breve means cut time. So we're going to feel this toccata in 2. It is marked molto allegro. So I want this one to really zip right along at a very, very quick tempo. You'll find this at the bottom of page 5 of your sampler. This one is interesting because of some real fun rhythmical effects, basically called hemiolas, where we have this opening is felt in 2. And then all of a sudden we have what feels like 3 or sounds like 3. And that little pattern repeats itself a number of times throughout this particular toccata. Again, the middle section gives way to a more playful character with lots of first inversion triads played staccato, and it's very, very different from the character of the opening. So I hope that you'll enjoy hearing toccata alla breve. One thing that I did in this particular toccata that I think will make it easier for your students to really play successfully is that you'll notice that all of these little rapid 8-note patterns start on the strong fingers and go up, starting with 1, 2, and 3, your 3 strongest fingers. And when you're playing fast patterns like this, of course, it's much easier for students with small hands or not yet really fully developed technique to play those patterns rapidly and successfully. And even in patterns like this, I have strong fingers on both of the strong beats. So we have 3 and 1. And again in this measure. So again, the thumb is right there on the strongest beats all the way through. In book 2, again, book 2, oops, it looks like this. And in book 2, you're going to find 5 toccatas. Now, these are certainly more demanding, but they're wonderful pieces to perform and to practice. They lie beautifully in the hand. I worked really, really hard to make sure that all of these pieces fit the hands beautifully. Even though they sound like they're quite complex, very often they sound harder than they actually are. This particular volume is dedicated to another very dear friend in California, and her name is Gail Liu. She teaches up in the Castro Valley area and has been very, very active over the years in NTAC and NTNA. She gives lots of reviews and is a wonderful teacher, has lots of very, very fine students. This first piece I want to play for you is found in your sampler book again. And if you look at the title, Blue, Blue Toccata, you might wonder why in the world did I call it Blue, Blue Toccata? Well, that's because it's based on the actual standard blues progression, which if you know that progression, it starts off with 4 bars of the 1 chord, followed by 2 bars of 4, 2 bars of 1, then it goes to 5, 1, 5, 4, 1, 1. So it's a 12-bar progression. But since this piece is marked molto presto, it's also in cut time, I've actually just doubled that standard progression. So you really have a 24-bar pattern instead of just a 12-bar pattern. It has a very fun pattern in the right hand, that has the second finger crossing over the thumb and then right back again like this. Each time the second finger crosses over, it goes to a black key, which makes it more comfortable in the hand than if I were going over from a white to a white note. Even when we go to the four chords, I'm sorry. So we have, then back to one, and when I go to five, even when I go to five, I still go over to a black key. So every single time, it's very, very consistent. This has lots of little fun running scales in the left hand in that middle section. Even in the middle section, even though it's a very different character, I still maintain that standard blues progression. Here is blue, blue, staccato. I think that's great fun to play. The next one is Toccata alla Tarantella. And this one, again, you'll see the first two pages in your sampler. But this is basically just a very virtuosic sounding tarantella. I wanted to do a toccata in 6/8, and so it seemed kind of natural to think about a tarantella. But this one adds a lot of kind of bang for the buck, so to speak, in the performance. It has a real big opening. Starts off fortissimo with that low G octave in the left hand. I've always felt like G minor was a very kind of intense, dramatic key. Think about that wonderful Rachmaninoff prelude in G minor that everyone loves so much. And that kind of gives you a good idea of the drama that I think we'll find in this piece as well. It has lots of very sudden dynamic changes throughout this piece. So when your students perform this one, try and have them emphasize the dynamics, so that they really get a real wonderful character of this piece, along with all of the virtuosity. Here's Toccata alla Tarantella. practicing this particular toccata, you might have your students really look carefully at the fingering in certain measures. In measure 6, for instance, we have this pattern, which sounds kind of complicated, but in reality, all we have is a G minor chord in second inversion in the right hand, outlined like this. In the left hand, we have 5 and 2 on the C sharp and F sharp, so they could practice blocking that, and they put it together, so it fits the hand very, very nicely each time they have that particular pattern. I want to close my toccata portion here with a wonderful piece called Toccata Español. Living in New Mexico, I felt that I really needed to do a toccata that had a real Spanish flavor. And this one certainly does. It's a very different kind of toccata. It has a lot of rhythmic patterns that go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, like that. But it starts off very calmly, actually, per toccata style, and it breaks into a full toccata mode at the end of that second page. And from there, it's really, really rapid and very exciting. There's lots of alternating hand patterns all the way through. When we get to this pattern, make sure our wrists are nice and loose so that we really feel comfortable with those repeated alternating chords. And also, if your students will give a nice little accent in the middle of each measure, it'll help to maintain that energy as they play this piece all the way through. But let's listen to Toccata Español. I hope that you enjoyed listening to those toccatas and realize there are more in each book that you're also going to love. I also want to show you some brand new books that just came out recently that coordinate with our Premier Piano Express series. These are repertoire books, and they are available now in 4 different levels. If you look in your sampler at page 2, you'll see pictures of the covers of all 4 of these books. I only have time to show you just a couple of pieces, but I want to make sure that you're aware of these wonderful new collections. You're going to find many, many different styles in every single book. You're going to find rags, little ballads. You're going to find beautiful romantic pieces, contemporary pieces, and a lot of original classical masterwork pieces as well. I can almost bet you that At some point in time, you're going to find that these repertoire books are going to be a real standard part of your teaching repertoire. They correlate beautifully, of course, with our Premier Piano Express books, but they also work for any student that you have, no matter what method they might be using. I want to show you a couple from book 3. You will see those in your sampler. One of my favorites from book 3 is called Starry Night, and it goes like this. It ends like this. Beautiful little romantic piece. You'll find a Tarantella Siciliano. Martha Meir and I have written all the original pieces in these collections, and I think you're going to have so much fun teaching all of them. The Tarantella Siciliano goes like this. I have the little DC al fine, goes back to the beginning. It's a great, great little recital piece. Here's a sonatina in G major by Latour. So forth. I know many of you love teaching sonatinas, and you're going to find several sonatinas in both volumes 3 and 4 of this series. Another real favorite of mine is the Premier Toccatina in the back of book 3. It goes like this. So forth. And let me show you a couple from book 4. See, my time is running out on me. There's a wonderful Atwood sonatina in G major, which goes like this. And so forth. You'll find a gorgeous little piece in B-flat major called Reverie. Lyrical, so beautiful all the way through. That would be a great little piece for maybe a prelude in church Sunday. I want to end here with Serenade to Seville. This is a wonderful Spanish-sounding piece. Your students will love this one. It ends like this. That completes my portion. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope that you all stay happy and especially healthy, and I would love to see you all in person one of these days soon. Bye.
Thank you, Dennis. It is always a pleasure to hear your wonderful music. Now I'd like to welcome Catherine as she introduces her new, visually stunning museum masterpieces, followed by a performance of her new Eiffel Tower Waltz duet. Catherine?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here today at the MTNA Virtual Conference for 2020, and I'm very pleased to be a part of the Alfred Showcase. Today I will be presenting my newest books from Alfred, Museum Masterpieces Books A and B. I hope many of you are already familiar with Museum Masterpieces Books 1 through 4. Those books were a result of a long-held dream of mine to write pieces that were all based on inspiration from beautiful artworks that I've loved. And those pieces came out a few years ago and had so much wonderful positive reaction and feedback from teachers and young students, teenage students, and adult students who all loved having the visual imagery of artworks to inspire them to tell a story with their music and learn about interpretation. And teachers sent me so many ideas that they were inspired creatively as teachers in their recitals to do all sorts of wonderful things. Some people had their recitals at art museums. Many teachers projected the images of the artworks onto a screen as the students played. So then the whole audience could enjoy this multimedia event and understand the story of the music even better themselves. So one of the things, though, that I got in feedback from teachers was that they would love it if I would write some elementary pieces to be part of the series, because Museum Masterpieces Books 1 through 4 spanned the early intermediate through late intermediate. And thus, with that feedback from teachers, were born Books A and B. And Book A is from elementary to late elementary, and Book B is from late elementary and right into the early intermediate to bridge right into the levels of the original books 1 through 4. So I'd like to share with you a little bit of a look at the book, since you can't be holding it right here in your hand. And this is the cover of Book A. And I wanted to show you the most special thing about the whole series that I love, that is just an exquisite looking book, and that is an inspiration from Tom Giroux at Alfred was to have these art inserts, 4 pages of color reproductions of all of the paintings that are featured in each book. So the students not only have a book of music, but they also have their own miniature art book collection. So without further ado now, I'd like to take you into your online digital sampler made for you by Alfred. And so if you'd like to just watch the artwork and look at the artworks, they are on page 8 of your sampler. And if you'd like to look at the music as we play, then you're welcome to look along starting on page 9 of your digital sampler. I'd like to say one of the special features of Book A is that there are optional duets to go with every one of the solos. There's 10 solos in Book A and 10 solos in Book B. So because I'd like to share with you a little bit of those duets, I'm very fortunate because I am social distancing from everyone in the world except for my husband. And Erwin Krinsky's going to come on up, and can you wave to the camera? And he is going to join me for the duets today. The first piece in the book is called The Swing, and it's by Renoir. So I'm going to show you a little tiny bit of it solo, and then Erwin will come on in and join me on the duet so you get a little feeling of both of them. Imagine yourself in a sunny garden in Paris for The Swing. Now the duet. Now we go to coda. I'm so happy we can play duets together for you. They're so much fun. The next piece in the book, I'm going to play for you a little solo so you get a little feeling of that. It's called Tiger in a Tropical Storm, and it's by Rousseau. So in this artwork, you see the tiger prowling on its prey, and it's full of action, and I think it will inspire students to really do their dynamic levels to create that mystery and the tiger about to pounce. So here's a little of that. Surprise. In the painting, which is also subtitled Surprise, you don't actually see the tiger when he pounces, but I decided to include that in the piece. So now we're going to go on to the next piece in your sampler. Again, we're still on page 9, and this is a Maratha hunting party. So join us as we join the caravan on the dusty mountainside with the elephants. And I just brought this little prop since I'm right here in my studio and had it. You might want to include a little tambourine in your recital performance. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So a little exotica there. And now I hope that you'll look in your sampler at this beautiful painting by Bierstadt featuring the pioneers in their covered wagons and Bierstadt's famous use of a golden light. It's so beautiful. So now will you join us on the Oregon Trail? Here we go, about 1, 2, 3, 4. It's fun there out on the trail. So now I'd like to play for you a little bit. This is now, if you turn the page in your digital sampler, we're now on page 10. This is a beautiful, energetic painting by Edelfelt that shows a young girl and her father on a boat with the giant waves splashing. And so I wrote here as the symbolic energy for the student to play with energy like waves. So we're going to go about 1, 2, 3, here we go. 1, 2, 3. The next piece that I'd like to share with you is Napoleon Crossing the Alps. And the painting is just great by David. He actually did 5 of very similar paintings. And you see Napoleon on the horse. It's full of energy. And I wanted the students to hear the gallop of the horse and also the call of the trumpets from the approaching army of Napoleon. So here we go. 1, 2, here we go. The next piece I'm going to show you just a little bit, just solo. I wanted to write this piece. It's on the painting Butterflies of Red Tone. It's a very beautiful, fluttery type of artwork. And I'm using a pentatonic scale here. And the one thing that I think students will love is without having to have pedal changing skills already, they can just hold the pedal down through the entire piece and it will sound good and they get that beautiful resonance. So here's a little bit of Butterflies. I always think introducing pedal for elementary and late elementary students is so wonderful because it's really magical part of playing the piano. So now I would like to end on book A with Rain by Van Gogh. And that's also on page 10 in your sampler. And this piece is very sad to match the raindrop feel, the sad feeling in Van Gogh's painting, at one that he did at the very end of his life. And my experience, though, has been that even very young students at this elementary and late elementary level love playing sad pieces and sort of pouring their heart out in them. So I hope that you're going to hear the little raindrops. So here we go with a little bit of Rain. Music by me, artwork by Van Gogh. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now that's the conclusion of Book A, and we're going to move on to Book B. I want to say one thing about this piece is it gives students the opportunity to learn about playing repeat notes, to never play the exact dynamic on any note, so to give everything a sense of direction. And it's very easy on a piece like that to learn that principle of musicality. So now we're going to go into Book B, and I'm going to begin with The Cellist, which is all the artwork for Book B is on page 11, and The Cellist starts on page 12. Now, changing the mood, the next piece is called Rush Hour New York. So listen for what I labeled in the piece as beep beeps. So lots of horns honking there. In a big contrast of mood, the next piece in your sampler on page 12, A Poet on a Mountaintop. This is a piece from the 15th century and piece of art, not the music. And it's very philosophical and gentle. And so here's a little bit of Poet on the Mountaintop. And off of that peaceful sound of that very philosophical artwork, we're going to now seg into Franz Marc, who was a German artist in the early 1900s, and I saw his artworks at a special exhibit in New York. And I love the way he has this very fanciful take on animals, and he loves painting horses, particularly in the color blue. So this is based on one of his blue horse paintings. And so I wanted the student to hear the pony galloping. A much abbreviated version, but just to give you an idea of the humor of it. Next, I'm going to show you a piece that was based on a painting. I have to actually read this title because it's a long title. A Prairie Picnic Disturbed by a Rushing Herd of Buffalo. And I think that this might have actually happened to the artist, Caitlin, is that he was moving out west to do some of his artwork, and he was laying out this beautiful picnic and didn't know that there were herds of buffalo in the area. So it's meant to have the sound of the rushing herd. So at the beginning, you'll hear this. It's really a fun painting, and I hope students will have lots of fun playing it. We are now on that piece, we move to page 13 of your sampler. So now, to continue on page 13 of your sampler, this is Asbury Park South by a wonderful American artist named Florine Stettheimer. She painted this piece of Asbury Park, which is a famous boardwalk in New Jersey. And she painted this in 1920. And it really captures the feeling of these people just enjoying the day and strutting on the boardwalk. And it has sort of that early 1920s jazz feel to it. So here's a little bit of Asbury Park South. going to show you a little bit of wheat fields with crows. This is based on a painting by Van Gogh. Again, golden skies with golden fields and then crows flying above. And the last piece I'm going to show you from Book B is Alexander Pushkin at the Seashore. And this is just a beautiful painting. It's on the cover of Book B, and I hope you'll look at the painting. Pushkin the poet is looking over the beautiful seashore. Flowing like the sea breeze. And to conclude today, I would like to show you my latest duet, Eiffel Tower Waltz, commissioned by the Lancaster music teachers to celebrate their 50th anniversary. And my husband, Erwin, is going to join me again for this duet. And listen for the sparkling lights of the Eiffel Tower at the end. We're just going to play you the A and B themes and the conclusion. And it says to play with lively and exuberant energy. So here we go. About 1, 2, 3, here we go. I hope you enjoyed being here today. I so much enjoyed being here. And I hope that you all stay safe and healthy and well. And I hope to see everybody in Atlanta next year. Please, I'd love if you'd share your feedback with me and come to Facebook and visit. Send me a message. If you're not already my friend, friend me. I'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you so much.
If you will turn to the last page of the sampler, you will find a complete listing of all Alfred piano publications released within the last year. I would like to extend my appreciation to Dennis Alexander and Catherine Rollin for sharing their latest ideas, and to MTNA for providing this wonderful opportunity. Once again, I invite you to visit alfred.com/MTNA2020 to learn more about the music presented in this showcase. Thank you for joining us today. Although we continue social distancing, as musicians, we have the pleasure of being able to spend our time learning and growing through music. May you and your loved ones stay safe and secure. We will see each other again soon.